Today's presentation is part of the Community Foundation's Woven Together learning series. Woven Together features national and local experts who explore long-standing systemic issues in our community and attempts to identify solutions to address these challenges. The goal of this series is to elevate big ideas, spark inspiring conversations, and drive transformational change in our region.
In our region, we have our own opportunities and challenges. Housing in the Birmingham-Hoover Metro is still relatively affordable. We're near the median among metros for the percentage of households that are cost burdened, that spend more than 30% of their income on housing costs. But like the rest of the country, we've seen a rapid rise in the cost of housing. From 2016 to 2022, the percentage of cost-burdened households rose from 43% to 53%. Most of those 70,000 households are lower income.
Our goal tonight is not to debate for the sake of debating, but to create a space for dialogue. One where we can challenge our assumptions, ask hard questions, and ultimately search for common ground. Because while solutions may differ, as Rob said, the ultimate goal is the same, ensuring that every American has access to safe, stable, and affordable housing.
I think how we define a housing crisis in economic terms when supply doesn't necessarily meet demand. In many places across the country, there is actually housing stock. But it's the kind of stock that doesn't necessarily meet the demand of the people who need it. In addition, just observing over time and my time working on housing policy among other policies, I know how important housing is in relation to other public policies. When you have low home ownership, you have lower educational outcomes, lower health outcomes. You have job instability. And so when I see a housing crisis, it's not just a matter of whether or not there's supply to meet the demand. It's whether or not people are living out their full lives.
And as Andre said, it's a supply not being able to meet demand issue. And on the supply side, the issue is that in the 1920s, at the behest of the federal government, localities put in place zoning policies that tried to limit housing to single-family detached only. And that was done for very nefarious purposes. They wanted to keep Black and other ethnic minorities, Eastern European and Southern European immigrants, out of their white neighborhoods.
I agree that when it comes to government policy, there's been some very coercive federal, state, and local policies that have prohibited Black people from owning homes, developing wealth. And with that said, I do feel that government is a necessary component of the solution. If we're going to build homes at any kind of scale, it's not going to occur because of state, local, and even private investment. There must be some level of federal investment in order to build. Particularly in places like Birmingham.
Where you allow a little bit greater density and where you follow the keep it short and simple land use rules, and you allow faster permitting and you keep the cost down to build. In all these instances, the private sector has built thousands of housing units in a really short time. And the people that have benefited most from these new housing construction have been lower income, younger, and more diverse buyers. And so if I'm just flat, if we have all these examples at the state and local level, why are we not putting our stake in these efforts rather than saying the federal government has to come in with a one-size-fits-all solution? And the federal government has a pretty poor track record with this, but you have to put in place some sort of tax abatement where you fill in a quarter of the lots in Birmingham are vacant. So there's plenty of land that you could be building on, but you need to make it so a developer can build, and you need to create the environment that people want to live in Birmingham. And I mean, if I look there's plenty of home building just outside of the city. I mean, if you look into the suburbs in Vestavia and what are the other ones, Hoover. I mean, there's plenty of home building. I mean, people want to live, but once you go across the city in Birmingham, there's nothing being built. So that to me suggests that it's really comes down to a policy choice that property taxes might be too high, as in Philadelphia. And if you reverse that, you can actually draw the demand from the suburbs back into the city, as happened in Philadelphia.
I'm high on special purpose credit programs, and these are programs that allow banks to change their underwriting status to structures to meet people where they are. We have thousands of invisible prime borrowers, and this gets back to discrimination. People who are doing everything right, they have good credit score, they have good income, they just can't save enough for a down payment. We need to find a product that matches where they are. And so for me, and often these people are paying in terms of rent much higher than they would in a mortgage.
What can we as a community foundation do to help move this forward?
So from the community foundation perspective, I mean, I think you have a lot of convening power. And you can really elevate these issues, and you can educate a lot of the folks, the movers and shakers in the localities, and you can inform them about these case studies and the housing abundance success sequence that we've identified, and you can identify at the legislative or executive level champions that can really push this through, and at the same time you can keep people on message and provide durability. But kind of ultimately, if you want to solve the supply shortage, as I said, at the state and local level, that's where the action needs to be. You don't need necessarily the federal government.
Yeah, I agree with this, that, and I said this, I hinted at this, I don't think the role of a foundation is to supply housing or anything like that, but you can use your convening power. You can spotlight initiatives that are working. I think meetings like this are helpful in a sense of giving people exposure to different perspectives. I do appreciate some nonprofit work that is going on across the country. I support Habitat for Humanity for multiple reasons. I know that in many cases they're the #1 builder in the world, and they're doing innovative things that we need to pay attention to. So for me, I think what you can do is spotlight the successes, maybe help fund demonstration projects, but only to see it as a demonstration of what could be scaled and codified into law at some point.